Hey guys, and welcome to the new episode of Full Funnel B2B Marketing Podcast. This is episode 95. Today I'm chatting with Adam Goyette. Probably some of you know Adam from LinkedIn or Twitter. Also, Adam was one of our speakers at Full Funnel Summit. We chatted a lot about ABM in the past. And some of you might know him from his G2 background, right? And our second guest is Sam Senior, who is co-founder and CEO of company called TestBox, which is quite interesting company that allows you to try multiple products in one place without talking to salespeople, something that I wish could existed many years ago, because I believe nobody wants to just waste time on reaching out to sales folks to get this experience, right, to try the product. So today we are going to chat about what has changed in the B2B buying process, right? The guys collected lots of insights and data that they can share about the customer experience. I also collected some stats with my co-founder, Vladimir, basically analyzing our opportunities, right, and the sources. So these are the things that we are going to share with you. Anytime, feel free to join the discussion, and you can ask the questions live. Just raise your hand, or feel free to share questions in a Zoom chat. But first of all, Adam, Sam, thanks a lot for joining me, guys.
Thanks very much.
So the first question to you guys who joined us: where you guys are coming from? I'm calling from Split, Croatia. Adam, where are you joining us from?
I am in Chicago, Illinois.
And you, Sam?
I'm in Boulder, Colorado.
In Colorado. And you guys, where are you joining us? I see 20 folks online. Type in a Zoom chat where you all coming from. Curious to see. I see some people who are joining us quite often. Just from Milan, Italy.
Nice.
Hey, Glennis.
Toronto.
Good to see you. Who else? Do we have somebody else from United States and from Europe? Share with us in the Zoom chat. Don't be shy. And while you guys probably chatting from Houston, nice to see you. So I would like to kick it off, with one simple question. What do you think, guys, has changed in the B2B buying process? You have collected tons of insights, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Adam, I reckon you should start with like the history and where we're up to today, and then I can talk about where I think it's going, given that's what we're doing at TestBox.
Yeah, sure. That's not a simple question, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, we'll just start with something, an easy softball question, hey?
I'll try to limit it to under an hour here, but I think the biggest thing, and this was really one of the big messages, like when I was at G2 that we were talking about, was, and why G2 was actually founded, was software reviews and like data you could get about like the products people were spending hundreds of $1,000s on, or 10,000 or 20,000, was kind of this black box, and your only source of information was really getting it from sales reps that you were talking to, and that made the buying decisions really hard for people. And so as it kind of evolved, I think G2 was kind of founded with this mission of like, hey, it's easier to get reviews on books I'm going to buy online through Amazon than it is actually this $10,000 piece of software. And like industry reports and stuff aren't it, right? Like nobody trusts those. You want to hear from the people actually using it. And so that's what G2 started out as. And I think it's kind of put the power, I think the central theme is like the power's gone back into the buyer's hand, right? Like they have a lot of control, and you start to see that more with like product-led growth, like we were talking a little bit about before the call started. Product tours and onboarding experiences and all these kinds of things are more customer kind of driven. And I think that evolution has kind of been started with like, I think the reviews, but now it's taking shape in terms of actual product experiences. And so I think that's one of the biggest shifts, and marketing teams have to adjust to that. Sales teams have to adjust to that, right? Like the whole way we go to market is going to be a lot different, because your call to actions can't just be like, get on the call for a demo, an hour-long demo, right? Nobody wants to do that. That's like a last resort. So that's the biggest shift I see happening, is like a lot of the power has shifted more into the buyer's hand. It's more like of a consumerized type of buying experience.
And I think to that consumerization piece, Adam, that is a large catalyst for the reason to be doing this, right? Most of the people who are starting to be buying software now and have the power to, a lot of them have been using the internet and computers, software at large, since they were like 10 years old or younger. The buying age is now those people who have been on the internet using software since they can remember, and they're so familiar with it. Where historically sales reps, a lot of the role was actually to educate and to teach and enable people to be successful with a piece of software. I don't think people need that anywhere near as much right now, because you have people who are between the ages of 25 and 40 being the typical software buyers for companies. You combine that with completely different expectations on the consumer side, where I can now order something, and we'll keep talking about Amazon, I'm sure, but like you can order something from Amazon, get it the next day. If you don't like it, if you happen to be going to a supermarket in the US, for instance, you can return that item at the supermarket to Amazon 24 hours later, or they'll come and get it from you. That's an example. Or you have in the US, there's this thing called Warby Parker. Basically, it's try on prescription glasses. Historically, you'd have to go to a brick and mortar store. You'd like kind of look at all of these things, be expensive, whatever. Now they send you 5 free sets of lenses for you to try at home, or frames for you to try at home. So you're starting to see all of these different consumer activities that are all about enabling that customer to have an excellent buying experience where they have ultimate choice. And if they don't like it, they can return it really easily. And they have confidence in the decision because they've been able to do all of this testing by themselves. And now, because we have younger buyers of software, we now also have those expectations transferring into enterprise software deals, where people think, I should be able to have full access to these products. I should be able to really test and compare them like I can in any other pieces of my life where I might be spending $50, but now I'm spending $100,000 on a piece of software. Like, why aren't I getting an equivalent experience? And so I think that's the big change catalyst that is happening right now, and continues to move from gated products to more ungated products. And that's kind of what will continue to happen in the future, in my opinion.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you guys. I actually see, a huge influence of B2C on B2B. Why? Because actually all of us, we spend every single day more time on buying things, on consuming things, right? And we don't want, when we are going to bank, we don't want to spend lots of time on making bank transfers or getting cash, whatever, right? That's why companies like Revolut or Wise just flourishing and booming, right? They saw a gap and voila. The growth is tremendous. The same is happening everywhere. You shared lots of B2C examples. But when it comes to B2B, just to give you a ridiculous fact that happened to me today, something that I shared behind the scenes with you. So I published a post on LinkedIn, and there was a part about account research. So I shared two software that we are using at Full Funnel. And then one person left a comment, hey, but there are like lots of different software that can provide intent data. And I just, out of curiosity, I saw some new names. Out of curiosity, obviously, I checked these companies, but then I see this this vague marketing slang. Marketing, get a fantastic or something, get an instant access to marketing and sales intelligence. And then you see some screenshots. You have no idea what the product does. You don't have product tours. You can't sign up for a free trial. You don't have a sandbox. You don't see the price. And if you want to get answers to these questions, you need to book a demo and talk to SDR. But for me, I'm just basically running away immediately from companies that are doing this.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting too, because I think one of the other things that we didn't really talk about and what's changed is also options, right? If you think about it, 10 years ago, CRM, there weren't that many options. Whereas today, you look at that MarTech landscape where it's like 10 years ago, it was the MarTech 1000, now it's the MarTech 10,000. And then you take that example and say like, okay, all those MarTech companies are targeting me, a VP of marketing, right? So each of them, I'm getting all their ads, all their sequences. They're all saying very similar things. We help you save you time, money, we make your ad campaigns better, whatever it is. And so like the trust factor goes down and I have more options. So Like, I'm not just going to believe what a company says. Everyone's saying very similar things. I want to see for myself. And the companies that can make that easy, I think, have a huge advantage, because like you said, like you go to the website and it's like, I'm not signing up for a demo unless it's like something I definitely want to use and it's a last resort. That's the only way for me to get it.
Yeah, I think I was actually looking at a Trust Radius report the other day. I'm looking at the chat right now. Basically, they asked the question of like, what are the 3 things that technology vendors do that make you more likely to buy? The top 2 by far, like they are double any other answer on this question. First one, 70% of people say it is software pricing available on the website. And then 71% of people say the ability to access a demo or free trial available on the website. 70% of buyers think those 2 are the most important things. And then you have something like the online advertising or outreach from salespeople at like 10%. It's not even comparable. That people are looking for transparency because they are tired of being told things than it not necessarily being true when they have full access.
Is it actually something that motivated you to start TestBox?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think so. For those who are maybe not familiar, basically our goal here at TestBox is to move from people having gated products and not really being able to figure out what is the right product for them to making the entire buying experience ungated. So a marketplace where you could say, I care about these 3 or 4 pieces of software, and you get immediate access to them with data, with use cases, and you can instantly play with each of them side by side and A/B test all the features that you care about, and it's free. And we're only in a couple of markets right now. We've done customer support, marketing automation. We're about to roll out CRM and keep rolling that out every 2 months, basically, for the next year or 2. But basically, the whole idea here is like never have to have a lack of transparency, have the ability to control the software buying experience yourself, self-serve, and go much deeper than anyone's going to enable you to. And then to Christoph's question, data was from Trust Radius from the 22 report. And then the 2 deciding 70% factors were software pricing available on the website and options for accessing a demo or free trial on the website.
If you have somewhere the stats nearby, maybe you can share your screen and we can quickly go through.
Done. All right, so this is the chart I was looking at just now.
Yeah.
So as you see, it's just such a marked difference, right? You see these 2 are clearly the things that people care about, and then you've got sales reps down here at 11%. It's just such a big difference. And I'm gonna flick back a couple of slides that we had here as well. So I'll keep going back here. So this is a bit of messy chart. So give me a second just to explain what we're looking at. In the dark blue is the data from last year. In the light blue is the data from this year. And so the green arrows here kind of tell you where there's been change. And basically it says that like people are relying significantly more on free trial accounts and the ability to do this. And and user reviews, they're the 2 big ones. And then there's significant reduction in reliance on the vendor website. To your point, Andre, there's a lot of marketing speak and it can be really difficult to really understand what people mean. And then you see the absolute biggest drop off here of vendor reps. So people used to be like 40% of the time. These are really important resources, but now it's only 25% of the time. So what you're seeing is more, it's like very consistent, more desire for self-serve, more desire for transparency, less desire for being told and being sort of like pulled along the journey by someone else, instead like having control back for yourself.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for sharing. I actually can share with you, I have the same feelings, and basically price and product trials are 2 biggest friction points I'm seeing currently, right? If companies don't provide these options, sometimes I hear like the feedback, let's say if you are selling complex industrial automation software, there is no opportunity to provide free trial, right? But what you can do, at least you can create a product tool. You can create different use cases explaining how different roles can use the product. So I can see it in action. I don't need, maybe I won't be able to try it but I can explicitly understand what does this product, right? And
I don't think that's an excuse anymore. I don't think saying, oh, we don't do free trials or we can't give that to you, that's not an excuse that flies with people anymore. I've spoken to a lot of buyers of software who are just saying, you know what, if if you're not going to give me a free trial, I'm not interested in looking at your software. If you're not going to enable me to access it. And so I think like that has historically been something that reps will get away with saying and organizations will believe, but it's not going to work in the future. It's already starting to break down for them today.
Yeah, I mean, there are maybe some specific use cases, right? If you need, like in this example, industrial automation software, you need to go to the factory, you need to connect it to the facilities. But again, you can create sandbox, etc. So
there are ways to do it. There are ways to do it. Like we've started to demonstrate the ability to do that with our product. Like I genuinely just don't think it's an excuse that people can have anymore. I feel very strongly about this, obviously.
Okay. So price and free trial, right? What other friction points, guys, you see? Maybe what your users are sharing, right? What other friction points that kill conversion in the marketing and sales processes?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. I think the transparency piece is a big part, but you look at like someone's website experience, right? I posted about this on like Twitter yesterday. I went to a website and I had 4 pop-ups happen, right? Like accept cookies, an announcement bar, the chat bot popped up, and a screen takeover. I immediately just closed out the tab after taking a screenshot to like tweet about it, how bad an experience it was. But it's such a bad buying experience, and I'm a first-time visitor. And so I think as marketers, like you have to understand where are people in their journey of buying, right? Like I didn't come off of an ad where I had high intent, where I clicked, I want to see a product tour, then fine, take me to a conversion page. I was a first-time visitor through organic search on the website, and the pop-up bot's like, hey, you want to see a free product? It's like, I haven't even read your headline of your website yet to know what you do. And so I think marketers are hung up on this like conversion piece of it, and they kind of lose sight of the bigger picture, which is like, if you give value and you can educate people on the product and let them jump right in and explore, your conversions will come, right? Like you're losing a lot right up front because you're putting up all these barriers for people to actually engage with your product. And so I think that's a huge component. And it kind of goes to that transparency thing. It's like, I don't want to check out your plans. I don't have questions about your plans. I haven't even been on your site yet, right? And so it just feels like there's an immediate, like, I remember like when you go into, like, everyone hates going into the stores where immediately you walk in and a sales rep walks right up to you and then follows you around the store the whole time trying to get you by because they're like commission based. And so like, I think it's similar to like a website. That's what it starts to feel like. And so I think marketers who can understand that and then build experiences, whether through product tours or whatever, that cater to what people actually want, because they're going to get it from you or someone of your competitors, will actually end up winning in the end, because most people just end up bouncing from those horrible experiences. Like, they have other options. They don't need to just stick on your site.
Yeah, I think the other one is when people feel tricked. And I feel like this happens so often where there'll be a CTA that sounds like you're going to get something, like you will get access to a free trial immediately. You click on it, it's a form, it's asking you to do a call, it's something else. When people feel tricked, that annoys them so much. They lose so much trust. And I think, unfortunately, marketers and sales leaders have sort of been taught, they have grown up in this world where the sales rep was king and the sales rep was the one who led everything. So they believed that you had to have the sales rep involved all the time. And so they've had all these little tricks and different paths. And now it just, for lack of a word, just like really pisses people off, and they just want to leave and they don't trust you and they're not going to come back. And I think we need to start seeing that shift consistently across the market, because even really big companies, like, even, I know they're old, but companies like Oracle, who really should be getting this stuff right, they have tons of resources to do it, but there's all these paths to getting tricked to do something that you don't actually want on their website. I kind of felt that the other day myself. That's why I bring it up as an example.
I actually chatted with folks from our trenches community and came up with a few more friction points. Just wanted to hear your takes on it. So one of them is a long and sophisticated form, right? Let's say 10 fields, and you need to boom, 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 give me this, give me that kind of information. So folks thought, like, whenever they see this very long form, they just move away immediately. Another one, which is not that obvious, but it happens quite often, and the most ridiculous fact, I experienced it recently. I was reaching out to a couple of ABM tech vendors, And again, with ABM, you won't be able to get a free trial, right? You guys all know this. You need to
It's not good
that.
enough that we're working with them to try and change that.
I
That's
will,
one of my goals in the next 6 months, is to ensure that you can get free trials at ABM platforms.
I hope. Just DM me when it will be.
Well, genuinely, what I've been talking about the last 2 or 3 days, and we're already starting to talk to some of them because we know it's an area that needs to be changed.
But now the most ridiculous fact. So with one of these companies, I'm booking the demo. I'm filling it probably 6 fields form. I'm giving all the information. And you know what happens next? So next, I'm just seeing pop-up, thanks for inquiry. Our sales rep will contact you in the next 48 hours. I'm like, are you guys kidding?
Well, and then the best is, Andre, is when they then don't reach out to you. Like, I've had that happen. I've filled out the whole thing like 48 hours. Week go past, haven't heard anything. 2 weeks. I then have to when I've had to reach out 3 times to ask them to talk to me, that's crazy. And it's happened too many times to my liking.
Yeah, so for me, if I don't have a chance, even if I'm willing to book a demo, but I can't book and call with a sales rep right away, for me, it's just a friction point. So one more thing I'm just reflecting now, and also people like B2B buyers who are purchasing software told one of the biggest friction points they mentioned is talking to unqualified sales reps. So they're coming, basically, if I'm joining the demo, right, I have specific questions, I want to get answers, right? And then you just being qualified, using this BANT technique by SDR. Hey, do you have budget? Do you have authority? Then click here, click there. This is how the product works. And I'm just thinking, but when you guys start talking about my questions and then you hear, yeah, but I need to bring somebody else from my team to answer your questions. So guys mentioned that in this case, they are not willing as well to proceed with the conversation with this vendor. Do you have any data that proves or just declines this?
I mean, I don't have any data. I think, well, I have a couple data points. They're very like specific, right? I think one of the things I've worked with a client on is like, actually, to your point, is like, why do I have to reach out? Like, why do you need all this data points from me? You asked for my business email. Now you need my company name. Like, get it from the business email, right? Like, I just gave you the domain. Like, figure it out. And so I think a lot of times marketers put internal processes onto the customers, which creates a horrible experience. And so one of the companies I work with, we streamlined their whole sign-up process, where just ask for an email and then ask you to book a time, basically in that sign-up flow to actually speak to a sales rep. They have a free trial version as well, but if you want to jump in and talk to a sales rep, and basically they saw conversion rates jump like 40% of people actually going through that flow, whereas before it was a 7-step form, then they had to follow up. And again, not great at being following up. They get a generic email follow-up, and then it takes a day or so for someone to actually call. At that point, most people have moved on. You kind of forget what you even did yesterday if you even filled out a form. And if you're anything like me, like I only answer the phone when my mom or my wife call. And so other than that, you're probably going to voicemail right away. I just don't answer, especially like an unknown number. Sam, I answer your phone calls too, don't worry.
You do, which is nice. I appreciate that.
You're in elite territory. So I think when you think of that experience, it's so bad, right? And back to the friction point, is like, how do you make it, even if you're going to do a demo process, how do you make it dead simple for that process to happen? Because right now, the idea of filling out a form, waiting 2 days to get follow-up, to then get a call scheduled, and then I get on the first call and it's a BDR, to your point, who's going to qualify me more before I can talk to an AE. You've put up so many barriers for me to even just see the product. By the time I get on the phone with an AE, I'm super annoyed. And then what usually happens is the AE asks me the same questions I already got asked, and then tells me about their company history. And it's like, I have a problem to solve. And that to me is the number one priority. And I have very specific ways I want to do it. And so I think the more you can just look at that experience and be like, if I was on the other end of this, would I be happy with it? Like, does this make sense? And go through your own buying process to say, like, how painful are we making this? And just use common sense. It's not that hard, I feel like, to really streamline the sales and marketing process if you view it from that lens, and not from the lens of what data do we need to route this properly. Like, forget all of that for a second and just say, like, if I was a buyer, would this be an enjoyable experience or not? And most of the times the answer is no.
Yeah, and I think to that point as well around compensation is actually really important here for for the sales team. If you think about it, like that SDR or BDR's job, their entire thing, they're comped on meetings. They're not comped on your success and your outcomes. They're comped on getting you on the phone. And then the AE there is comped on getting you into actually buying the product. But you have this mismatch here of like, people have different reasons to talk to you. And so the BDR or SDR will say kind of anything to you to try and make you look like a qualified lead, so that the AE says this is a qualified lead, so the BDR or SDR gets paid. And so we have this issue as well that is like very structural around the incentives that are happening on the vendor side, leading to poor outcomes for the customer as well. I saw you nod there, Adam, and like smile. Like, do you agree? Is that something you've seen?
Yes, I think the way you comp people, I was literally on a call yesterday talking about this, where we found out we saw a huge drop off with a customer I work with in conversion rates. And what happened was they changed the way their pay structure was for BDRs, where they started comping on meetings booked, not qualified opportunities. So what naturally happens if you're a BDR and that's how you're making money, like, awesome, I can book a ton of meetings here. I don't really care if they're qualified because meetings booked is the #1 thing. And so I think it's like that saying of like how you measure people is how they behave, right? If you're putting in the wrong measurements for people that aren't aligned to end goals, like they'll just behave in that way. And so it's just funny to see like that actually translate like in a very real way, where it's like we had 100 more demos booked, but our actual conversion rate dropped. And it actually impacts the qualified customers as well, because now an AE is spending a lot of their time chasing a bunch of things and not as focused on like the ones that might actually qualify, right? And so it actually hurts your sales experience if you're not completely aligned along the way.
I'm gonna drop something in the chat that people should open but not watch right now. It's a little TikTok that kind of goes through this. It's pretty fantastic. My team shared it with me, and it's like the personalities of all the reps and the person who's actually trying to take the call. It's worth a watch in the future.
I actually, guys, you shared the story about the compensation, and I also recall this slide you shared when B2B buyers mentioned that they trust when consultant recommends the specific product, right? And I remember like a few years ago, we were looking to partner with sales enablement software, and we evaluated a couple of options and decided to stick with one well-known in Europe sales enablement software. At that time, they entered the United States. They opened office there. They were sponsoring lots of conferences, etc., investing in brand. But now the most ridiculous fact. So all the friction points that we have discussed, they were obviously presented, but the most ridiculous situation. So every time we were bringing a new customer, and we are serving the whole Europe, right? We have clients from different countries. So let's say we bring somebody from UK, then we need to talk to local SDR to set up the account. If we bring somebody from Netherlands, we need to talk to somebody who is, let's say, serving Benelux region. Now I remember the fact, so when we were bringing the UK customer, we were just introduced by the partnership manager to the SDR. And I'm talking to the guy, so, hey, so I need to set up the account really quickly. And he asks, so how many licenses they will purchase right from the bat? I'm saying, hey, so in the beginning, it's just for few people, they will set up the hub, and later they will onboard the sales team. And he says, no. In UK, it doesn't work that way. So the minimal condition, they purchase 20 licenses right from the bat and pay the annual subscription. So actually, we ended up never partnering with that company. And it's so ridiculous when you bring as a referral businesses to the companies, and then sales people like killing it right during the process when customers are ready to pay. I think this is another story. So just reminded me the slide, right? Sometimes you can, as a consultant, you can recommend a specific software, but then if the sales process is broken.
Yep. Yeah, I've even gone through the process where I've used the product before, switched jobs, wanted to use the product again, and was forced to go through the full buying cycle. It's like I already know that I don't want a demo, I don't want to talk to a BDR, I don't want any of this. I just want to buy the product, right? Like I don't want to go through onboarding, all of that. And so again, but because it's the internal process of how it needs to happen, like there's just barriers along the whole way. It's incredibly painful.
Adam,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to say, so there was a question about that website with 4 pop-ups. If you can share the screenshot that you made, that would be, or a link to that tweet. Yeah, that would be cool. And you know, guys, what I want to share, I want to quickly share some takeaways we made with my co-founder Vladimir about also the changes we are seeing in the B2B buying process. And I would like to hear your takes. Do you see the same? And then wrap up the entire conversation with the best practices. So what, let's say, leading B2B companies are doing right now to basically selling and marketing the way their customers are buying, right? So let me share my screen and I will quickly show you the slides. So these are the main takeaways. Let me open something, right? So we extracted the data from like all our inquiry forms, and obviously was this question, how did you hear about us? And one of the takeaways that I have seen, like comparing all the replies, right, that most people, they are searching for the content, not for the vendors. So we made the takeaway that search became a top of the funnel activity. So people they're not looking anymore. Of course, I'm generalizing right now, right? But they're not looking anymore for the best, I don't know, ABM software. They're looking how to launch ABM, how to execute ABM, or do anything, right? And then when it comes to purchasing stack, usually they reach out to peers, they ask their network, they ask their colleagues, etc. So do you see the same?
Yes, I think definitely from the search perspective, right? When I was at Help Scout, one of the big things we started to realize is like our actual like content and organic search and stuff, our conversions started going down just generally. And we started focusing content into 2 different buckets. One being like, to your point, like low intent, top of the funnel type of search, right? Where we want to be in the conversation. We want people to be able to provide resources and just be a resource for anyone looking for help desk software, right? The other one is like our search focus that we were expecting results out of became more high intent. So it wasn't like, you know, the listicles and things like that, where we saw the focus was someone searching for Zendesk alternatives. Like we want to appear in that search, right? So we'll write an article for that. Somebody's searching for reviews on a competitor. And so we would write articles focused on that because that's more intent focused kind of content. And I think the biggest kind of stat recently that I've kind of latched onto is, you know, the idea that only like 5% of people are in market for your solution at any given time. And that's very real, right? And so I think as a marketer, you have to think like, okay, how do I build up awareness with the 95%? And then of the 5% who are actually in market, how do I become the solution that maybe they want to lean on? And so figuring out your marketing that way, I think makes it a lot clearer, because a lot of times people write content that's top of the funnel. Hey, we're getting all this traffic and none of it converts. And so it's like you're misaligning the goals of what the outcome of that should be.
Next one. So my takeaway after analyzing this is that buying decisions are happening in communities and during events. Even today we chatted, we mentioned a couple of software. So potentially, let's make a quick test. Guys, while we were chatting, did anybody check TestBox? Sorry, type plus or minus. I'm just curious to see. Type plus if you have checked what TestBox does. Just
money, Sean.
Yeah, nobody. That's well, for me that's good. So you are listening to us. Yeah, but I'm just curious how many people will check the products that we mentioned today after the conversation, right? So I saw again like lots of people are buying or reaching out just because company or a vendor or a product was recommended by their peers, right? In our case, we just see multiple people mention that, hey, this guy recommended you, or this community recommended you, etc. So quite often we hear that whenever, let's say, I have heard it, this is happening in our case when we are presenting our tech stack, right? People are reaching out to the companies that we are using, right? And they say, hey, Full Funnel mentioned you on their webinar. So do you see the same?
So I think within community, it is becoming huge. So there's all these revenue communities, marketing communities, support communities, whatever it is, that have tens of thousands of members in there. So whether that's the RevOps co-op, or whether that's support driven, or some of the MarTech ones. And consistently there is always a channel that is, hey, we're trying to solve this problem. Tell us about the tooling that you think could be an option for us, or I'm looking at this, anyone know alternatives to it? And so as a result, what we're seeing is that people are starting with their peers to enable them to get to a short list, and to also tell them, here are the things that you should be watching out for. Here are the things I love about the product. And so people are coming in really armed with a lot of knowledge before they even start, because they have access to thousands of people who have gone through the same decision as them very recently in a community, and it tends to be Slack communities at the moment, seem to be the main area. And that actually enables people to be significantly more successful. So that seems to be a common area. I fully agree with you on like webinars and podcasts as places where like respected leaders have talks about products that could potentially be valuable to them, to the people who are listening to podcasts. And like that is consistently probably why we're seeing such an increase in people going on podcasts in the B2B software space, for example, is because they know that if you're running a good podcast, people are going to talk about your product. Hopefully they'll say good things, and it will mean that people will come back to you in the future. And so what you'll actually see is there's a lot of demand creation happening in all of these other channels. And some of it is the knowledge gap is being fulfilled in communities.
Yeah. Actually, we see the same every single day in our trenches community. It's Slack community, and people asking these questions all the time, right? What is the best source of intent data for the APAC region or whatever, right? And lots of these conversations are happening, and then boom, have you found the vendor, right? So peers recommend what they're using, and this is how most of decisions are made. In our case, all our tech stack was purchased by recommendation. So there wasn't like a search. We're reaching out to peers asking, hey, what would you recommend for this specific use case? Or another case, if I'm following marketers or founders of these companies, and I know, like, and trust this company, and basically this creates the demand that I know these people definitely will create a good product. That's another reason to purchase.
It's also hilarious that that chat ended with tech target didn't respond, right? Which is kind of what we went back to before, which is like, it's so painful, like someone inbounds and you just don't even hear back from a company.
Yep. So I was saying, I think there's a good question for you, Adam, from Ishan, just around interactions with colleagues and dark social and how we think about attribution. I know it's messy and difficult and proving a little bit hard, but I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I don't think like the term dark social is like feels like a little bit like marketers making up another word for something that's already always existed, which is like word of mouth, right? It's just the venues of where it's happening is changing. And if I'm a person who's looking for software, like who am I going to trust? Another VP of marketing or the sales rep I got on the phone with who tells me this, right? And so, and you think about what's at stake here. If I buy the wrong ABM platform or intent data and I get 0 results out of it for the sales team, like my job's on the line. I just wasted 6 months of company time and $40,000 and all this sort of stuff implementing the wrong solution. So people are always going to vet with others, like what is the right pick for them. And so I think there's a couple of things. It is really hard to measure because I might hear about TestBox 5 different times on podcasts or whatever it might be, webinars, and then suddenly I see an ad, I'm like, I'm going to check them out. And I click on it and suddenly I'm engaged and I'm in the paid channel. And so what I find is like when you think about you building out your marketing strategy, it has to take into consideration all those kinds of things. And then I think you can't really rely too much on one specific channel as being like the main driver of it. Because the reality is like, you never really know. It's like a status, like what average person needs 7, 8 touch points before they even like interact with a brand. So I think it really comes down to like, it's sometimes a list. You have to have a good product to begin with, right? If your product sucks, it doesn't really matter how good your marketer is. Like, your reputation's not going to be great. Everyone has seen that, right? Where it's like, oh, their support sucks and all this. And like, you're immediately checked off the box. I could be buying an ABM platform. If I hear about one being bad from somebody I know and trust, I'm not even going to consider that platform. It doesn't matter how well their ads are run and how well they're targeting me. And so it really comes down to having a good product, I think, and then really how do you spread the word and kind of viewing it in those 2 buckets of the 95 and the 5%, and they kind of play into each other a little bit. So I don't have marketing attribution solved. I think a lot of it, I wouldn't waste too many cycles trying to figure it out. Just try to do the right things in terms of like attracting the 95% and trying to convert the 5.
Love it. Thanks a lot for sharing. So basically, I would love, to summarize everything what we just discussed and come up with a clear idea, right? That the way to sell and to market in the upcoming years is, first of all, providing self-onboarding, opportunity to try the product without talking to sales rep. Explicitly explain what the product does, right? Not using the slang, not using like this terminology that nobody gets. Share the price, make it clear and explicit. I see lots of benefits. You will be talking to people who are aware of the budget, right? So they have this in mind and they can afford the product. They come up with specific questions, right, that they want to discuss. And in this case, you don't need to have more sales reps. You need to have fewer but more qualified people that can work as consultants. They can advise, right? They can say, hey, in your case, this is how it might work, right? This is the way how to solve your challenge. So this is what everybody expects. And also based on the slide that Sam shared, right, from Trust Radius, I see that in our case, it also seems that it's just relevant to what folks are saying, that social thought leadership, right, creates this trust. So people are reaching out to the brands, to the companies they are familiar with, they're aware of, they know people inside, right, and they are willing to test. And basically, I'm super happy that you created TestBox, and more excited that you're bringing ABM vendors so we can get rid of annoying demos with SDRs and can try the products.
That's the goal, Andre.
So I think that's it for today. I would love to end it up, with probably last question that came from our community. And the question was from Kate, the impact of global crisis on the B2B buying process. Maybe you guys can drop a few words. So how the companies are adapting to it.
Yeah, I can jump in first. I think the biggest thing you're seeing is like efficiency, right? People don't want wasted spend. And so you think about from a marketing standpoint, if you're just targeting off of personas, you're probably wasting 95% of your ad spend because you're not actually targeting people where they are in the journey. And so I think from that standpoint, it's huge. I think from people making buying decisions, they don't want to waste the time and money on the wrong solution. So they're going to vet even more, I think, and make sure like, hey, if this is 3x the price of the cheaper solution, like why? What are we getting out of it? And so it kind of all goes back to the value and benefits and like how you talk about the product. Like you have to really show like how people can use it and leverage it. And then I think they're going to want to test and try before they buy it because they're not going to make a huge investment, especially now where I think everyone's kind of, hey, run efficiently. And if that's not part of the focus of how you're letting them experience the product, like I think you're missing a big piece of it.
Thank you. Maybe the last question from me to you guys. How did you like the episode? Was it insightful? Did you learn something new? Did you get some fresh insights? Share with us in a Zoom chat. You can just give us thumbs up, fire, say something, You can put even shit if you didn't like it. That's also fine.
I'll take the feedback.
I'm kidding. Yeah, but thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Esther. Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Need more sessions like this. Yeah, so we have a good reason to replicate it in future. Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for the feedback. I will share the recording as always. It will be available on YouTube, and also later on Saturday it will be available on Spotify and iTunes. So you can guys listen or watch it later. I will also send links to LinkedIn accounts of Adam and Sam, and a link to their companies TestBox and Cordis. So thanks everybody for joining us today. Adam, Sam, thanks a lot for being awesome guests.
Thanks very much for having us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Take care, guys. Have a great rest of the week. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.